My name is Monica. I work for Alpha Plus. How many of you have heard about Alpha Plus? All right. Using Alpha Plus or from the display in the trade show? That's right. Well, Alpha Plus has been around for more than 10 years. We have provided all kinds of different services. In the past, we had a library, and we were able to lend out library resources to organizations across Ontario. In 2007, our funding changed, and our library had to close. But we have shifted our services to concentrate and focus more on technology. And over the last few years, we have undertaken quite a few different projects when it comes to using technology, exploring technology. We have had web study sessions last year where we went actually out to the field and did specific training sessions on new social media tools. So my session today about Wiki is to just give you an idea of a new tool that you may want to explore and use in your program. As I said, we only have an hour, so it's going to be a very quick overview, just to give you an idea, give you a sense of what it is, how it works. I'll explain some of the handouts that you have, and a lot of content that we cover today, you will have access to after the session. So don't worry, all the links and passwords that I'm giving you right now will work after you go home. So if you don't explore some of the stuff today, you can always go home and go back and explore it in more details. Okay, I think you're almost full. Now, I have somebody here, it's Linda, and Linda will help anyone who needs help with French. So if you need help with French, just raise your hand, and Linda is around here to help out, okay? All right, so I know we have a few people from outside of Ontario. Many of you are from Ontario. Those of you from Ontario, you know Alpha Plus went around and did the sessions. Outside of Ontario, we couldn't just because we don't have the funding to do that. But if you have any questions or you would like to talk about partnerships or other opportunities, please let me know. We're always ready to help and work with you as well. The page that I'm asking you to go to, and just for those of you who came a bit late, there's a bigger sheet, kind of thick paper, that says alphapluswikis.pbworks.com. That's the address for the page I have on the screen, and I'm going to tell you right away, this is a wiki. PBWorks is a service or software that organizations provide, and a wiki that allows you to work with for free or for a premium. Depending on the features you will want, you can get a free wiki or you can purchase, pay a small fee and then get more features with it. Over the last few years, most of the organizations I have worked with are using the free wikis, just because it doesn't cost anything and it allows them to do some of the collaboration we'll talk about soon. Now, how many of you heard about wikis before? How many of you have used wikis? Okay. So the best example of a wiki would be a Wikipedia. How many of you go to Wikipedia to use some of the information? How many of you contributed to Wikipedia? Okay, some of you. So the best idea for Wikipedia is that it's a website where you can go in and read information about all kinds of different topics. But if you want, you can actually log in and submit content for it, to build it, to explore it, to expand it. And that's the idea behind wikis overall. The idea that you can have something online where you put the content together and other people can come in and contribute to it. The easiest way to think about wiki, and the easiest way for me to explain it, is if you think of pages. So you have many different pages that you can create online, and you have tools to edit them, to add pictures, to add videos, to add links. But what's nice about it, because it's online, other people can come to those pages and contribute as well. You're not sending that content back and forth between yourself via email. So if you have many people that you're working with or collaborating with, that information doesn't go back and forth. It sits online and you come into it to read it or to contribute the content. Okay? So on the website that I have for you, you will see this funky image. And you have to bear with me, I'm not used to this computer. And it's actually a bit small. But if you scroll down, you will see the image here. And it compares information flow between regular Word documents exchanged via email and a wiki. So in a regular world, when you're working on a Word document, let's say you wrote a one-page report on something and you want a few people to come in, review the content, and collaborate with you on making sure that it's fine. You would send it to, let's say, 5 people. All of them will contribute content and send it back to you. That means you're getting 5 documents. Even if they include the track changes, 5 documents with track changes on all of them, and then you have to review all those documents, come back and enter those changes or accept the changes and make sure you have the right document. But if you have 15 or 20 people that are reviewing this content, it starts to be cumbersome. In many cases, people told us that the worst thing for them was if they worked on a promotional brochure, for example, and they had people approving the content. They sent it to printing, and it turns out that the version that was sent out wasn't the last version because somebody else contributed something that was missed. The idea behind wikis is that it all sits online, people come to it, make changes. The system saves all the changes that are being made, and you're looking at the last version available. It doesn't mean you're losing the content. You can always go back and look at the content because the system has history. It can show you the differences that were made. But you always look at the final version of something. And that's the difference between regular exchange of documents via email and having a wiki where you go for the content. Okay?
Sorry, I'm revealing my ignorance. How do we get to that page?
There is a handout in one of the, this one right here.
So just,
alphapluswiki.pgworks.com.
okay, so we don't have to do anything with our user number yet?
Yeah. So alphapluswikis.pgworks.com. It's the thicker sheet that you have. And when you take it home, that sheet and that address still works, so you can always use that. Now, we are looking right now at the wiki right away. And you will see, I don't have a PowerPoint. I started using wikis a few years ago, and I actually find them to be so useful, I stopped using PowerPoint. Because for me, wikis work. I can go in, put the content together, and come here and present the content to you, and then you can go home and access the same address and have all the content ready. Rather than just having a PowerPoint where you have to go through the slides, you don't have my comments, you don't have my notes. So this way, it's much easier for me to prepare the content. That's just one example of how somebody could be using wikis. You don't have to, but it just works for me very, very well. Okay? Now, let me scroll over just a tiny bit. You will see that there's quite a bit of content. So what I have done is I give you some definitions of what wiki is. I'm also have given you a video. And you will see in my case that video is not showing. That's because I was in the editing mode. If I go back to regular mode, that video will actually show. So let me just go back here, right there, and I have the video. Most of the images and the content you put in will show, but in terms of video, it just doesn't show when you're in the editing mode. So, very plain example. You can see I included an image in the wiki. Plain text. I was able to include a video very quickly. I'm also able to include tables. Under terms, you have an example of a basic table you can enter. Lots of links and other information that you can scroll through. A lot of information and resources I can share with you. And again, I don't have to give you handouts. I can just give you the address and you can go and access the information. Now, when you're looking at the wiki, the top or the navigation all around, there's a lot of different things going on. But what's nice about it is that when you get used to this kind of setup, you always know where you are and what you're doing because this setup never changes. So all the buttons and navigation that you have, that stays. You can hide some of it, you can navigate through some of it, but it stays. And that's one of the features that I found in the literacy field or the organizations I work with that works very well because everybody gets used to the setup, gets comfortable, and they know what they're doing. They don't get lost with the look or layout. It always looks the same. So let me give you a very quick overview of some of the navigation and how it works. One of the things I want to show you, because you can do it too, the very first thing is you will see there's this tiny arrow here on the side. If I click on it, it's going to hide the right side of the bar. If I go back and click it again, it's going to bring it back. And you can do the same thing on the page you're looking at. What it does is just hide some of the navigation, makes it easier to look at the content. Now, the wikis you're looking at are public wikis. You can set up public or private. One more time? You can go again. So that arrow allows you to hide the content back and forth. Just makes it easier to look at or navigate through the content. But there's a lot of different things going on. Let me just quickly go through all of them. I started saying, you're looking right now at the public wiki, but you can also have private wiki. So if you're working with somebody else on creating a wiki, you can choose to have a private wiki. Let's say you're working on documentation or reports. You can have a private wiki. If you have content that you want to share with general public, you can just check it off and make it a public wiki, and it will show on the website for anyone to see. If it's a private wiki and you give somebody the address, the system will say you have to have access to the workspace. You have to have permissions, and it won't let you in. Okay? So that's why you can all see this actual wiki. As I said, the main idea behind wiki is pages. So the content you're looking at with the title, with the images and all the information, that's a page within a wiki. This one, in this case, this is a front page. So anytime you go to a wiki address, you will have a front page. What I have done here, I actually changed the address from front page to say Explore the Wiki's hands-on. I just changed the title of it, and I pulled all kinds of content in it. The system will also show you who was the last person to edit the information. And there's page history. So that's something I have mentioned, that when you create pages and somebody comes in and makes changes, the system tracks the changes. So if I click on page history, you will see, as I was working on the content, you can see the system tracks all the changes. Every time I go in and edit the page, make changes to it, and hit save, the system keeps a copy of it. If I decide at some point that I don't like the changes I have made, I can always backtrack. I can choose any of the previous versions, and it will bring it back for me. It keeps a copy of it. So it's very, very useful if you're working or collaborating with someone, and you're the one coordinating the site, and somebody comes and makes the changes, and you're not very happy with it. You can always go back to the version before, talk to the person and say, you know what, I'm not sure about those changes, I want to bring up whatever we had before. You can always do that. So that idea of controlling the content or making sure that you're collaborating but also having some control over it, it's still there. Okay, let me go back to the page. I'm always going to be clicking on Wiki, the actual heading called Wiki. That's like a home page. So every time you go to a Wiki, the Wiki navigation is your home page, the first page of your Wiki. Now you will see, if I just scroll over through next to the item next to the Wiki, there's something called Pages and Files. That's a section where the system keeps track of all the documentation and information. It's like a folder on your documents site where you will have folders with specific categories that you can set up and all the files you may have uploaded. But there is a difference. And the difference will be that if you create pages within a wiki, they will be called pages. If you put in files and documents, images, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, PDFs, any of those are separate documents, and the system here will call it images and files. There's two ways it organizes the information for you, just so you know. There's also users information. So if you went in and you decided to set up a wiki, and I'll quickly go through that process with you just to give you a quick idea. You go in, you set up your wiki, you go through all the steps the system asks you, you become the administrator. At any point, you can add other users to your wiki. And it could be your colleagues that you would be working with, it could be your students if you're working with students, and basically what you would do is you just click add more users, and the system would ask you, what's their email address? What I want to point out here when you do that is, if you're working with someone that may have had a wiki in the past, it's good to ask them if they did, because the system relies on the email address to set up an account. So for example, I have my email, let's say it's monica@marson.ca, and I would put that email here. Wiki will actually look to see if there is an account with that name. If there is an account with that name, it will still send an email to me telling me, okay, somebody sent you an invite to go in and create and access that specific wiki. But because it knows I already have an account, it will put that wiki as part of the same account with the same email address. So people who are using wikis don't have 15 different accounts. They have one account with their email address, and there are different wikis underneath that they can navigate through. So it's very, very easy to do. There's also another thing that I actually learned today, and then but just a few days ago. The other sheet that I gave you, we'll go through that very quickly later. But that other sheet where you have the users, what's really neat about it, we're not going to go there right now, but I did not get your email addresses. I did not set up accounts for you already with the email address. What I did with this one is I went and I chose create accounts for your students. So basically the system has a feature where I can tell create 10 user accounts for me. And it will create the 10 user accounts. It will give me their usernames and passwords and even allow me to print out a sheet that I can cut into pieces and give to all of you. So if you're working with students or somebody else that you may want to share the access with, you don't even have to give them or work with them through the email access. You can actually create an account for them and then share that information with them through that. It was very, very useful if you have students, for example. When you're setting up accounts for others, you can give them different permission levels. It could be a writer, they can go in and actually write something. It could be editor, and it could be, sorry, that's the computer here. But if I scroll through it, you will see there are different permissions. So you can give access to different roles. Administrator will be the one that can do anything. Editor, they can come in and edit pages, but they will not be able to do any specific settings. Writer can write in specific areas. Reader, read only, you cannot do anything. And page level only. There is an option to give somebody access only to a specific page. But that access, most of the time, is a